All right, good morning, everyone. According to the clock on the counter, it's 9 o'clock. It is time for if you take your Bibles or your phone or your tablets to Isaiah chapter 7, as we continue to work our way through this section. Let me encourage you that are endeavoring to get involved in this. You have to read chapters 7 through chapter 10 and verse 4. That is a unit. You cannot understand the first part of this section without looking at the whole picture. Or we're going to have to go back a little bit and lay the foundation because of what we got into our discussion last week. I want to read, starting again very quickly in chapter 7 of Isaiah, and beginning in verse 1, because we have to understand this to understand what is going on in the following chapters. And it came to pass, and this would have been about 735 BC. And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, and Rezin, the king of Syria, and Peacock, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel. Now, what's this now? Here's the key. Went up to Jerusalem to make war against it, but it could not prevail against it. Now, I want you to watch carefully what follows. Here's the situation. All right? And it was told to the house of David. Not just to one person, but to the house of David. That is, again, significant class, saying Syria's forces are employed in Ephraim, which is the northern kingdom. So his heart and the heart of the people were moved as the trees of the woods are moved by the wind, which means, translated, they were what?
They were afraid.
They were terrified. They were terrified is what was going to happen, okay? Then the Lord said to Isaiah, now listen carefully. Then the Lord said to Isaiah, go out now to meet Ahaz, you and Shear-Jashub, your son. Why did God tell him, Isaiah, to take the son? Just think about that. There must have been some significance in that. By the way, the son's name meant remnant shall return. That's what the name means of the son. Why did he why was he told to take the son? All right? Keep that in mind. At the end of the aqueduct from the upper pool to the highway in the fuller's field, and say to him, take heed and be quiet, do not fear or be faint-hearted, for these two stubs of smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger of Rezin and Syria and the sons of Remaliah, because Syria, Ephraim, and the sons of Remaliah have plotted evil against you, saying, let us go up against Judah and trouble it. Now listen carefully. Here's another significant point in understanding this. And let us make a gap in the wall for ourselves and set a king over them the son of Tabel. That's significant. Set a king where?
Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem, by the name of, we don't know any more as far as my studying than that. But he was obviously not of what?
Judah.
Judah or of David. Now this is significant in my understanding of this. Thus says the Lord God, this shall not stand, nor shall it come to pass. What shall not stand, and what shall not come to pass? The verses that precede it. The war against Jerusalem and setting up this son of Tabel as king. It will not come to pass. That is significant. All right, now I'm not going to go ahead, we're not going to read all this, but within 65 years, Ephraim, that is the northern kingdom, keep in mind, that is Israel as the divided kingdom, you must understand that, will be broken so that it will not be a people, and so forth and so on. Moreover, the Lord spoke, verse 10, moreover, the Lord spoke again to Ahaz, saying, now the Lord spoke, I would assume this would be through Isaiah. I don't know, and what you don't know either. So it would perhaps be through the prophet Isaiah. The Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, ask a sign for yourself from the Lord your God, ask it either in the depth or in the height above. What's a sign? In this context, and as it is used throughout all of this history, what is a sign?
A miracle.
A what?
A miracle.
Okay.
Something to foretell what's going to happen in the future.
Okay.
Something to confirm what you already said.
Evidence. Talk is cheap. What did God just tell them through Isaiah would not happen? All right. Then the Lord is simply saying to Ahaz, all right, ask for proof of this it's going to happen. And of course, Ahaz said he would not. Well, he's already set it up himself, going back to physical forces. Now, here's something, class, you may disagree with me, and you have every right to. But I want you to notice carefully now what follows. Then he said, he would be Isaiah. Hear now, O house of David, not just Ahaz, O house of Israel, is it a small thing for you to weary men, and will you weary my God also? Therefore, the Lord himself shall give you the house of David, not just Ahaz, the house of David, a sign. Okay? Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Why would that be a sign? That's a question, class. Why would that be a sign? Well, what is the sign? A virgin, that happens every day, huh? Now, I see you shaking your head and you're smiling. Oh, no. It doesn't happen every day. Biblically, as far as record, it happened one time. Now, remember, as Isaiah is talking to Ahaz and in turn the house of David, he has this child with him. How old is the child? We don't know. Why the child? This kept bugging me as I studied. Now watch carefully. I know we got into this last week, and there was some different opinion. That's fine. But I will share with you what I have understood, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. All right? The first sign is that, behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel, which, of course, as we understand, means God with us. Curds and honey he shall eat, and he may know to refuse evil and choose the good. He who?
The child.
The child from the virgin. Now, in my understanding, and again, I realize we had some discussion, but this will become clearer as we read through chapter 10 and verse 4. We won't get that far today, but in your studying, all right, before the child, what child? Now, that's probably the issue. Isaiah had with him a child that was a sign. We learned that over in chapter 8, 9, and 10, or particularly 8 and 9. The child's name was, or the child's name meant, remnant shall return. Why? Why was it significant that the remnant shall return?
In order to bring in the Messiah.
This continually, class, goes back to Genesis chapter 12. Continuously. When he said to Abram, I'll make of you a great nation, I'll give that nation a land, and thirdly, from you shall come a blessing to all the families of the earth. That was totally unconditional, 100% dependent on what God said. When I understood that in my studying, the whole Old Testament came to life. I know this is a repeat, it sounds like a broken record. But from Genesis 12 through Malachi, those three promises are being fulfilled. At the time of Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, the two promises had been fulfilled. The nation and the land. The third one has not yet been fulfilled. And it was going to be fulfilled regardless of what anybody said, even the children of Israel. If you're really interested in this, you're going to have to read Ezekiel and Jeremiah. You're going to have to read those books. Now, what is he talking about here? Well, let's read on. Betty?
I was just going to say, really, the land promise was filled with Joshua. If you read in Joshua 21, you will see the land God promised to give to the Israelites was given totally as he said it would be given.
Yes, the latter part of the book of Joshua, the land, but given to them to keep it was conditional. To receive it, here it is. Now, what are you going to do with it? Go back and read again the book of Joshua. So the two promises of the three have been fulfilled at this time. The third one was, of course, yet. Remember, as was brought out last week, Isaiah is called, what kind of prophet? Generally, we refer to him as the Messianic. Why?
He refers to the...
Well, okay, his writings were filled with prophecies, and we're going to see that, regarding the Messiah. I don't know how many, I don't remember, I don't know whether you've read how many different prophecies, particularly in Isaiah, regarding the coming of the Messiah. Here's one. Isaiah chapter 7 and verse 14. How do we know this was a prophecy? How do we know it was fulfilled? Turn to Matthew chapter 1. Let's get this behind us first. All right, will someone read beginning in verse 18 of Matthew 1 through the end of the chapter?
Now the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. And her husband Joseph, being a just man and unwilling to put her to shame, resolved to divorce her quietly. But as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife, for that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke from his sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took his wife, but knew her not until she had given birth to a son, and he called his name Jesus.
Best commentary on the Bible is the Bible itself. Now, did the house of David and did Ahaz understand that? No.
Isaiah may not have understood.
Well, you're exactly right. Isaiah, good point. Isaiah himself may not have understood it. This was something that obviously was a sign. Now, did Ahaz see this happen? No. No. Now, my understanding, and I realize we talked about this last week, and some of you shared a different idea, and that's fine. But now, my understanding in verse 16 is the child that Isaiah had with him. This was going to be fulfilled in the very eyes of Ahaz and the children of Israel. The other one would not be fulfilled in the eye of Ahaz and the children of Israel at that time. Now, you learn this, if I'll shut up and we'll move on, we learn this by what follows. Now, watch carefully. And in verse 15, curds and honey he shall eat, with that he may know to refuse the evil and the good. For before the child, now I realize that in your probably every translation, the word child is capitalized. Who does that?
We do.
The printer does it.
Mine's not done.
The printer, yours is not, okay. That's the American Standard, New American Standard, okay. Okay. Now, let's follow through with this, and yes. Come on, John.
Let me get this thing off my chest, please. Okay, like you said, Isaiah 7, verse 14. Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child. So my question is, if Mary was a virgin to have a child like Jesus, did Mary have children before or had children Jesus was the first child to Mary?
Yes.
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 I think I understood, and yes, this is a once in a lifetime event. It was a sign. Now remember again the situation. The children of Israel, Ahaz was scared to death of what was going to happen, and the Lord just told them in verse 7, it shall not stand, nor shall it come to pass. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. And the Lord backed this up with, number one, how did Ahaz and the children of Israel accept that sign in verse 14? By faith. I was thinking about this. Did Ahaz and the children of Israel have faith in God's workings? That's a question. Well, certainly they did. Did they know their history? Did they know their history? Where did God, 500 years ago or something like that, maybe, I don't remember the exact time frame, bring them out of Egypt? What had happened to them for 400 years in Egypt? They were preserved. They were protected. The land of Goshen brought them across the Red Sea. Yes, they knew the promises of God, that He kept His promise. Now, were they going to see this promise in verse 14 come to pass? Evidently, well, they didn't know. He just said, it didn't say when this was going to happen. It was just going to happen. But this other promise, in my understanding, they were going to see what was going to happen as prophesied through the two sons of Isaiah. Now, let's read on and see if we can make a little bit better sense. That you may wonder, where's this guy coming from? Well, until you understand, as I said, 7 through 10 in chapter 10 and verse 4, you're not going to get it. And that's why I have encouraged you and will continue to encourage you to read this. You're not going to get it sitting here in this class for 45 minutes. You're not going to get it, class. This will be the most boring time you've had all week, unless you take and do your part. Do you remember the account of the Samaritan woman in John 4?
Yes.
Remember, she left her water pots, went back to the town, and told the people that this man has told me everything I've ever done. Well, he may have. It is not recorded. Then what did they do? They came to the well, obviously where Jesus was. And this is an interesting statement. I think it's in verse 42. Talking to the woman, we believe what you said. She told them the truth. But now we believe because I'm paraphrasing, we have heard with our own ears. That was a wake-up call to me. You're not going to get it secondhand. You're not going to get it merely sitting in this class or listening to Don preach until you get it down yourself. Firsthand. Not secondhand, firsthand. You know, a few years ago, we used to be known as the people of the Bible. We were walking Bibles. Are we now? No. Are we now?
Some.
I remember back in our early days in the 60s, in the 70s, we were known as the Walking Bible. What about now? I can only answer that for myself. And that's what I'm challenging. All right, let's read on. Let's read on. All right, now let's see, where are we? Verse 17, the Lord will bring the king of Assyria upon you and your people and your father's house, days that you have not come since the days of Ephraim departed from Judah. That obviously was the division. Now what is interesting, and I keep bringing this out, class, This very thing is recorded in 2 Kings chapter 16 of what's going to happen. So Kings and Chronicles, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, and Daniel help us to better understand the book of Isaiah. Isaiah does not stand alone. All right, will someone begin reading in verse 18 of Isaiah chapter 7? All right, let me stop right there. What shall come to pass in that day? Just read the verse above it. The best commentary on the Bible is the Bible itself. He's going to use that phrase, what day? The day he's talking about in verse 17. The history shows us that the Assyrians were the people that God used to take the 10 northern tribes into captivity about 721 BC. That's what all this is about. All right, continue now. Continue, Susan, starting in verse 18.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord will whistle for the fly that is in the farthest part of the rivers of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria. They will come, and all of them will rest in the desolate valleys and in the clefts of the rocks, and on all thorns and on all pastures. In the same day, the Lord will shave.
What day?
The day they came.
Again, I've got on my sheet that word underlined. And in the same day, what day? Back to verse 18, back to verse 17. You have to understand the context. All right, continue.
In the same day, the Lord will shave with a higher razor with those from beyond the river, with the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the leg, and will also remove the beard. It shall be in that day that a man will keep alive a young cow and 2 sheep. So it shall be from the abundance of milk they give, that he will eat curds, for curds and honey everyone will eat who is left in the land. It shall happen in that day that wherever there could be 1,000 vines, or 1,000 shekels of silver, it would be for briars and thorns. With arrows of those, men will come there, because all of the land will become briars and thorns. And to any hill which would be dug with the bow, you will not go there for fear of briars and thorns, but it will become a range for oxen, and a place for sheep to run.
Did you read all the way through 25?
Yes, you did.
Okay, all right. Now, this is just a further description of exactly what happened when the Assyrians came to the northern kingdom of Israel and take them away. I think, if I remember correctly, 2 Kings, along about chapter 16, 17, and this is where, just as a point here, you remember when they took the people out and they left some of the people there. And then which was, and I learned this in my study, which was a normal custom of those who conquer lands, would move people in. And you remember that the king, and I don't remember his name, wanted a prophet from Samaria or from Israel to come back and teach the people. That is how the Samaritan people started. That we learned and we read about in the New Testament. All of this is simply describing what is further described in detail in, again, Ezekiel and Jeremiah. Exactly what happened. So, but remember, the king of, I tell you, sometimes I get all these names mixed up. The king of Samaria was not going to overrun Jerusalem. In fact, what happened was the 10 northern tribes ones that were taken away. All right, now, this continues. This continues in chapter 8. Now, watch carefully. All right, would someone like to read beginning in verse 1 of chapter 8? Now, something significant is taking place here.
The Lord said to me, take a large scroll and write on it with an ordinary pen, Hashbaz. So I called.
Now, wait a minute. Why? When I read that, I asked myself the question, why? Well, of course, it's going to be answered later. But why in the world did he take and write this man's name? And Bill, you did a good job there. Nobody questioned you on it. All right. But what it means is to speed the spoil, hasten the bounty, or the booty. This name was significant like the other name. Now watch carefully what happens. Verse 2.
So I called in Uriah the priest and Zechariah son of Jeberechiah as reliable witnesses for me. Then I made love to the prophetess, and she conceived and gave birth to a son. And the Lord said to me, name him Maher Ashbaz.
Now that's interesting. Why? Why? Well, if we stop here, we don't know why. Names were significant in certain areas. Why is your name such? I don't mean your last name. Does your name have a particular meaning? Probably not so. It may, but not so much today as it was back then. This is significant, class. All right, now read on.
For before the boy knows how to say my father or my mother, the wealth of Damascus and the plunder of Samaria will be carried off by the king of Assyria.
Okay. Now, does this help us understand the connection with the first son? To me, as I read this, you cannot understand chapter 7 until you start putting this together. All right? Let me see. Now, where are we? Okay. All right. Go ahead, Bill, if you want to, verse 5.
The Lord spoke to me again, because this people has rejected the gently flowing waters of Shiloh and rejoices over Rezlin and the son of Ramallah.
All right, let's stop there. Now, you say, this is Greek to me. Well, it's Greek to me. But you have to understand that a lot of this language they understood better than we do because of history. I don't mean the Hebrew, but even the English translation. What was, such as these people refused, what was the waters of Shiloh that flow softly? I mean, what kind of picture do you have there?
Peace.
Peace, exactly. Peace. But what have they done in the second part of that verse? And rejoice and Rezin and Remaliah's son. Now look at the next verse. Now therefore, because they have rejected the peace that comes through depending on what God says and His promises, rather they have had more faith in Rezin and the Remaliah's son, here's what's going to happen. All right? Now, read on in verse 7.
Therefore the Lord is about to bring against them the mighty floodwaters of the Euphrates, the king of Assyria with all his pomp. It will overflow all its channels, run over all its banks, and sweep on into Judah, swirling over it, passing through it and reaching up to the neck. Its outspread wings will cover the breadth of your land, Emmanuel.
Okay, let's stop there. How many of you have seen what water can do. Up in the Carolinas, Tennessee, I saw it in the Philippines just a few weeks ago. That's the contrast. If you do not want to receive the soft waters of Shiloh that flow softly, and you're going to then turn to Rezin and Remaliah's son, here's what's going to happen. And that's what he is described in verses 7 and 8, what happens from the not literal flood waters, but from the army of the Assyrians. As I read this, I keep wondering, man, these people were terrible. Who are these people? Who is he talking about? Who is this going to happen to?
God's chosen.
God-chosen people. Wait a minute. Why is he allowing this to happen to his, quote, chosen people?
They had left it.
What is interesting is, as I study this, and all I can do, class, is speak for myself, hopefully try to translate some of this to you. These people should, by right, have been wiped off the face of the earth. These people, God's chosen people. But he couldn't. Why?
The promise.
The promise. Several years ago, when I understood that, the whole Old Testament came to life again. I used to read some of those books, and man, this is old dry history. No, it's not. And you're going to see when we get into chapter 10 and for the next several chapters how God deals with people who punished Israel. They thought, particularly the Assyrians and the Babylonians, prided themselves. Look what we've done, boy. And God took care of them to protect his promise to Abraham. Remember there in the latter part of chapter 12 of Genesis, that paraphrase, those who are against you are against me, and those who favor you favor me. Why? Promise. Maybe you never realize that. That makes the whole Old Testament come to life. They had no right to exist. They were worser. No, I know what I said. In Ezekiel chapter 16, and it is repeated also, I caught this in my reading in Ezekiel chapter 23. You are worse than the Samaritans. You are worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. Why weren't they destroyed? Promise. And this is exactly what he's dealing with here. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to, let's read verses 9 and 10 of Isaiah chapter 8. Somebody, please.
Scattered, O you peoples, be broken into pieces. Give ear, all you from far countries. Gird yourself, but be broken in pieces. Gird yourself, but be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, but it will come to nothing. Speak the word, but it will not stand. For God is with us.
All right, I'm not quite sure on this in my study, but it seemed like he is warning those people who, like the Assyrians, who he is using not to get haughty and proud and say, boy, look at us. Who is, and for God is with us, who is the us? In verse 10, who is the us?
People,
Who?
his people,
What people?
God's people.
What? Okay, the remnant.
Yeah.
There has to be a remnant of the seed of Abraham to survive.
Right.
Why?
The promise.
The promise again, class. The promise. Ralph?
And that remnant,
Now, y'all may have to help me now.
and that remnant, and that's the tribe of Judah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the remnant is the tribe of Judah.
Yes, yes. Because, again, of the promise. The birth of Christ, class, the birth of Jesus was not by accident. It was not a roll of the dice. It was not a lucky draw. Galatians 4 and verse 4 says it was when?
Proper time.
In the proper time, or in the fullness of time, depends on what translation, or when the fullness of time came. That's what we're looking at here. Please don't look at this, oh boy, I mean, I wish he was studying something else. Well, maybe so, but I hope we can learn from this. We can learn from it. Yes?
It wasn't just the tribe of Judah.
Right.
They came back together after the Sebring.
They came back together, good point.
All of the different tribes
Yeah.
were also brought back in that were faithful.
All right, Tellers, I see a hand back there. I don't,
A remark, Frank, that Emmanuel applies also to Christianity on these days. Emmanuel, God with us, is at that time in the future, which is...
well, that's what the word means. And he could just as well have said Emmanuel, because that's what Emmanuel means, God with us, as we have already seen.
Well, Tellus was saying it applies to us today. Emmanuel, God with us.
Yes, if,
We're faithful.
yeah, exactly, like they are.
Wasn't it?
The remnant was faithful, and he's going to get into this with Isaiah.
But the promise was the virgin would bring forth the Emmanuel. That was when God was with us here in person. He was 100% God, 100% man. So that was when Emmanuel was here with us.
Okay, all right, but the word means Emmanuel, God with us. Now you're going to see that if you have read this, you've already seen this happen several times. All right, what time is it? Okay, all right. Let's now look at the warning to Isaiah, starting in verse 11 of chapter 8. Somebody?
Thus the Lord spoke to me with mighty power, and instructed me not to walk in the way of this people, saying, you are not to say, it is a conspiracy, in regard to all that this people call a conspiracy. And you are not to fear what they fear, or be in dread of it. It is the Lord of hosts, whom you should regard as holy, and he shall be your fear, and he shall be your dread. Then he shall become a sanctuary, but to both the houses of Israel, a stone to strike and a rock to stumble over, and a snare and a trap for the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Many will stumble over them, then they will fall and be broken. They will even be snared and caught.
Okay, now that's interesting. Here's a prophecy. Here's a prophecy. Did you catch that? This is referred to, let's see, in, where is it? Matthew 21 and verse 24, and I think it's also in Romans 9 and verse 33. He is simply saying that he will be as a sanctuary, but there's your contrast. But a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, as a trap and a snare in the inhabitants of Jerusalem. For many among them shall be stumble, they shall fall and be broken and snare and taken. All right, let's read 6.
Frank, the bell.
Was that the bell?
Yeah.
The second one.
Okay. Well, I thought I heard something. I thought maybe it was my hearing aid. I don't know. Okay, we're just stop and we're just left